right, so the next bit of gear is my new camo setup for the year. Now, again, same thing. You can have a significant debate on the type of camo, whether a certain pattern is better than one or the other. Honestly, as long as you, again, feel confident and you do feel like or if it does break up essentially your silhouette, that's what's important. The other big thing is being able to have equipment that's going to be able to hold up to some abuse, as well as manage the elements out there. So again, you can be in an area where you can have sunshine in the morning, and then it's rain, sleet, or snow in the afternoon, and be able to have a gear that can kind of handle that as well. So what I'm switched over to this year is Origin, their new hunting line. The big thing with this is that I've been really particular about wanting to get a camo setup or get my hunting clothes that are American made. So there's a lot of hunting brands out there. There's a lot of US based hunting companies out there that have made the decision to do a lot of their manufacturing overseas, or have a lot of it done not here in the United States. So it's something that I've been trying to transition to, and being able to buy US made products. You will kind of notice a theme that a lot of the equipment here that I do run is either try to made here in the state, or at least US made. And in regards to especially hunting clothes, there's a lot of options out there, but stuff that's made in the US is very limited. So there's only a handful of companies that actually manufacture, or at least the bulk of their manufacturing of their hunting clothes here in the States. So Origin is one that they actually source and make all their products here in the US. So I definitely want to give them a try this year. Unfortunately, they don't have any like retail stores, at least especially not that I'm aware of. So it is all ordering off online. So I was a little hesitant about investing in a whole new clothing line and having not actually, got my hands on it beforehand or try it out beforehand. But so far I've been pretty impressed. I'm gonna break down each of the layer systems and kind of give you my, brief overview, or I guess a review of that equipment, or of this clothing, at least so far in the season. So what I want to start out with is with their base layer. So essentially their system is a layering system. So they have basically an Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie layers, or system, or breakdown of their layers. So the first one we got is their stealth wool, nano wool, basically their base layer. Quite similar to any other hunting brand's base layers. It's a wool polyester blend, again, basically designed to go underneath your external garment, just to help keep you a little bit warmer. So with this here, it's a thinner. It's not a necessarily a heavyweight base layer. I would consider kind of like a light mid-weight garment, but with it, it's a basically a nice little base layer. One thing I will say with this is that it does manage the sweat a little bit better than some of like my older like army quality garments, where there's a lot more synthetics. With the wool, it does seem to be able to manage moisture a little bit better. Definitely not feeling like you're getting kind of swampy, or getting too warm essentially so far with it. All right, so this next piece of garment is one that I'm actually very impressed with. Again, this is their base layer. This is their nano wool stealth hoodie. So I'm pretty excited about this one. This is actually one that I feels like so far has performed very well, especially in regards to the early season where we had those extreme temperatures. I did wear this as basically my outer layer, and even with that 80-degree weather, it seemed to manage to heat pretty well. I did get a little warm, but it did seem like this dried out, and I actually equalized my temperature relatively quickly with this. So again, it's designed to basically help keep you warm, but also to be able to breathe and to manage moisture. It does have a hood with it. Now, usually I'm not a fan of having my base layer with a hood, because I usually have a hood on either my jacket or the sweatshirt I'm wearing. So having a double up on the hoodie generally is not something I'm really looking forward to. But with this, again, with it being that lighter weight, and it actually, fits pretty well even when I have the hood down, or when I have the additional layers on with a hood as well, that it doesn't seem to get too bulky, on the back of my neck or on my shoulders. So I'm pleased with that. Another thing that this has a built-in, basically the Ninja face covering. Again, I didn't know how much I was gonna like that having a part of the garment itself. But I'm actually pretty impressed when you either don't have the hood up or don't have the ninja face up. That is not too bulky behind the neck there. But when you actually do have the hood up and the ninja face covering up, it actually feels quite comfortable. I've actually hunted a couple different times with it up basically the whole time. The most of the garment itself is just the same fabric as the rest of the hoodie is, and it does have an elastic bit on the top that goes over the bridge of the nose, so it doesn't feel like it's basically cinched down on the entire face and not real tight on the face, but it does have that nice secure elastic band that goes over the nose. Not too tight though, to where it feels like it's digging in or anything like that or causing too much discomfort. So pretty good in regards to comfort and the fact that it's again, I'm pretty impressed with the feel of the actual having that hood with the ninja face covering as well. The other thing I really appreciate about this garment is that it does run long on the body itself, so it actually hangs down kind of lower on my waist, to where it's either long enough where if you leave it untucked, that when you sit down or as you bend or move or anything like that, it's not going to ride up on your back. You'll feel that you won't feel that draft of cold air on your back or a breeze on your back because of that garment getting cinched up. It is also long enough where if you tuck it into your pants, that it's not going to basically, once that first movement, become untucked essentially and cause the same issue for you. So I'm very pleased with the base layer of the Origin Hunting line so far. Certainly something that it will be probably worn on every hunt that I do this year. The next piece of their line is, as we move up into the layers here, is their Nylock field pant. Again, this one here is again, it is a quality product, I would feel. The big thing is definitely more suited for either early season, or more so on their probably more on like a western front side, where you're doing a lot more walking around, you're moving around a lot more. These pants feel like that's kind of what they're more designed for. So again, they're a lightweight pant. So in regards to as you move around, or as you're hiking, or if you're doing any spot and stalk type stuff, it's definitely one that you're not going to get overheated with or start really feeling bulky with it. I did notice that once you're in the stand, especially with these colder temperatures that we've been getting, that my legs do feel like they're getting a little chilled, or I can start feeling some of that cold radiating from my legs up as I sit there for several hours. So even with the base layer, these pants would be good for, I would say, I don't know what they're actually rated for, or I don't remember anyways, but I would say that these are good for maybe temperatures in the 50s if you're not in a high wind area. Anything lower than that, you are going to potentially start feeling chilled if you don't layer up additional. So if you do have their base layer on, you could add a secondary layer to maybe bulk this up a little bit, and you might feel comfortable. But with just the original base layer and the pant itself, with some of the colder temperatures, especially if you start getting some wet and rainy conditions, you could start to feel a little chilled with this. So this last hunt, I did end up busting out my older set of camo pants that are a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier, and I was just perfectly comfortable with these cold temperatures. So they did come out with another they do have an additional layer pant that's going to be much more suited for late season, as well as they just came out with another mid-level pant that's going to match the jacket that we're going to cover next year. So this one here, again, another piece of equipment that I'm actually quite pleased with. So this is their stealth wool jacket. This is, again, part of their Bravo line, or that outerwear clothing. I am very impressed with this. Basically, it's a blended wool jacket, and it's actually performs quite well. It's not a heavy late season jacket. It's more of like a midweight, mid season jacket, which typically fits kind of with what I typically like to wear. Generally, in years past, I would wear like a lightweight or like a midweight sweatshirt and then layer underneath of it, so where I didn't feel too bulky or have too much of a thick, heavy layer on top. At least on the top end, I like to feel like I have a little bit more space to work with and not feel too overly bulked. So far with the jacket itself, with wearing that Ninja hoodie, it matches the hood system with this jacket quite well. They actually kind of interline with each other, to where if you have both up, it feels like you're actually just wearing one hood, instead of having like two separate hoods where they're shaped differently or feel a little bit different. They generally have the same kind of outline or cutout, so they actually mesh together quite well. They do have additional, the same material as their Nylock product on the shoulders. So this is for if you're carrying a backpack or something like that, it's not going to wear out on the rest of the fabric. And with the jacket so far, even with some of the rain and the wind, it does do a good job of, again, managing moisture. So as it gets wet, it's not, with the wool, it's not going to degrade its ability to be able to keep you warm. So even if you're in a heavy rain or we're absolutely soaked, this would still help keep you warm. Again, you may not feel the most comfortable being all wet, but it is going to be able to manage being able to keep you warm even when wet. So one thing I did notice too is that, especially in a high wind situation or as we continue to get colder, that with this jacket as well, it may not be enough to be able to ward off all the elements or at least keep you warm, for especially if you did an extended hunt. So as we get closer to the rut, if you're out there for more than the typical few hour sit, if you're going to be out there all day or be extended out there into the morning or sit longer in the afternoon, you may start to feel chilled with this. So I did test out real quick with the jacket of being able to throw on. So I had the main base layer, and then basically all I did was throw on my puffy vest that I have. So again, I don't even know what the brand is of this guy here, but it's just kind of that midweight down vest. Again, very lightweight, kind of like a midweight vest here. I threw that underneath the threw this on top of the base layer, the Ninja hoodie, and then underneath the wool jacket. Again, didn't feel too bulky. Again, being able to just keep the core warm and allow for the dexterity of the arms by having it just be the vest seemed to work out pretty good, to be able to add additional warmth. I did notice, because I did wear all the equipment in, I did get a little bit warmer walking in with all the layers. So again, if you were to shed a layer and walk in and add the later, then you would probably be better off doing it that way and not getting too warm. But again, even with all the layering, it was able to, or I didn't feel like I was, soaking wet or, had a lot of wet gear on in the stand. It did seem that whatever sweat I had accumulated did evaporate off, or start to feel like I was still dry essentially. Shortly after being set up in the stand for a few minutes. So far, very impressed with the Origin line. Again, I am going to look into getting some of their other systems, especially as we get later into the season. So far, what I've got is their early to mid-season, equipment or apparel here. So, I'd either have to focus on adding more additional layers or being able to, get into some of my older equipment that's more suited for the late season. If I didn't purchase the other layers as well. But so far, very impressed with it. Again, 100% USA source and USA made. So there's that, again, that icing on the cake for me in regards to the hunt line. And price point, they're actually very good. So that's one thing I forgot to mention too, is that for a lot of the US made equipment, you're looking at, additional, cost to you to have that US product, just because of the cost of manufacturing is going to be higher here than it is when it gets shipped overseas. Price point though is probably on par or even better in some instances than some of the other hunting lines out there that aren't made in the US, that you may even pay more for the individual pieces of clothing. Competitive wise and for price point, you're not going to see anything more than what you would see for any other type of higher end hunting clothes from any other manufacturer. Thanks for watching this segment from the Am I Hunting podcast. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you share the show with your friends. If you do want to see more, you can tune into the full episode right here on the podcast playlist. And if you're on the go, you can always listen to the podcast on any of your favorite podcast platforms. And I hope to see you on the next one.